changes.
Good morning and welcome everybody to the Transform Westside Summit. Benjamin Daniel. If you can hear me, man, we'd love to test your audio. So your camera looks great.
Hey, I can hear you. Good stuff.
Awesome, and we can hear you. So looks
Cool.
great and sounds great. We should be good to go.
Sweet.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the 16th virtual Transform Westside Summit from the Westside Future Fund. My name is Ebony Ford, and I am a Westside resident. I live in English Avenue. And as you can see, my background looks a little different today. I'm actually not at the studio. I'm actually in my home in English Avenue. And speaking of doing things a little differently, we are going to be doing that today. We have a really nice lineup, a really nice program for you today. First of all, we're going to have different people kind of broadcasting around the West Side to show you guys what's going on around that area. And if you do want to, you can log in through Facebook or YouTube and go ahead and connect with us on Zoom so that you can see everything that we have planned for you today. So for the people who don't live on the West Side, and maybe this is your only way of really kind of seeing what's going on around here, you're going to love it. Also, we're going to have some polls and some surveys because we want to hear from you guys. We want to hear what you want from the Westside Future Fund, because we are here to serve you. We are here to take care of you, the Westside residents. And so we definitely want to hear from you today. And with that being said, I'm going to bring on John Almond now. And I think John is in the studio today. Hey, John.
Hey, good morning, Ebony. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you.
So yeah, I'm live from a studio. I'm here at a studio called Elevate, and they do a great job of hosting when we're trying to do stuff virtually through Zoom, so we can, do the best we can to pretend like we're back in a meeting together where we're interacting with one another.
Absolutely.
So, thank you for doing our show opening. And what we want to do for this show, and I see lots of folks who are already coming in through Zoom, is later in the broadcast, via Zoom, folks can interact. And one of the things we really want to get out of today's broadcast is, as we go into 2021, the good news is it looks like from recent reports, there'll be a vaccine coming online soon to COVID. Some of what I've read suggests that, by spring, things will be a little bit more normalized. But until that time too pray as we go into the first part of next year is really want to hear from folks who've been watching and joining us virtually. What topics should we cover? Maybe what places should we broadcast from? But one of the cool things that the virtual has really taught us is how we can better do a storytelling and connect, remotely. So we really want to hear from folks later in the broadcast. And so thanks for being a part of it today. And one of the things we want to just, for those of folks that are new, want to remind folks who the Westside Future Fund is. Westside Future Fund is a not-for-profit focused on historic neighborhoods on the Atlanta West Side. And this is our vision. How do we help develop a community Dr. King would be proud to call home, reflecting that he and his family were last in Vine City. And our mission statement and our values, and very much, especially on the value to do with the community, not to the community. And I also, as a not-for-profit, have a board of directors. I'm going to bring up my board of directors for folks to see. And I have a great volunteer board of directors. And appreciate all of them very much. Our current chair of the board is Dr. Beverly Tatum, the former president of Spelman College. So thank you to Westside Future Fund board of directors. And I've also got a great team. And then quickly we'll show who the team is supporting all the work of the Westside Future Fund. So thank you, team of Westside Future Fund. And also want to remind folks, if you're watching the broadcast, you can, if you haven't gotten already, grab our bulletin. And the bulletin has everything I just went through, plus other information. Our bulletin especially has a lot of information about COVID. So our healthcare partners like Good Samaritan and Nancy Clinic and others, testing around COVID and places you can continue to do as we continue to battle through the pandemic. But one of the things we want to encourage people to do is to get connected. And everyone here that's joined us on this broadcast, I have wanted to back up a little bit, but on our website, you saw if we could go back to that slide. If you want to go to that link, there's lots of information about COVID-19. I want to thank the team for keeping that up to date. So COVID-19, a lot of information from our partners is up at our website. So please check that out. And also as a reminder, thanks to the Home Depot Foundation, every live broadcast, at the end of it, I will name a winner of the Home Depot drawing. And so for everyone who is pre-registered for the summit, your name is already in the proverbial jar. If you want to be eligible and you haven't pre-registered, you can go to our website and pre-register. But around 8:30 or so, a name will be randomly drawn from those that are pre-registered, and I'll announce it at the end for a free Home Depot gift card. So thank you, Home Depot foundation for that gift card every single summit. Now, I think one of the things we want to talk about is, getting connected and to remind everyone of the ways to get connected. So thank you for getting connected. If you want to encourage other people to get connected, please do so. And speaking of connected, want to go to our West Side correspondent who is live this morning. There he is, Mr. Benjamin Early. All right, Benjamin, coming in through.
Hey, good morning.
Where are you this
Good
morning?
morning. Good morning. So I'm in a familiar place. We talk about, familiarity on the West Side and getting to know new spaces. Well, right here, I'm at 970 Jefferson Street. You know it well if you've watched the summits before. This is the home of where we do our weekly food drives, which unfortunately starting next year, they'll go to bi-weekly. But nonetheless, we look forward to having more volunteers engage with us here. And we're looking forward to hearing from you new places that you'd like to see me cover in the future. So we'll get back to that later on in the show. So thanks, John.
Yeah, and I know, as a reminder, in partnership with the Foodwell Alliance, we're now the owners of 970 Jefferson Street, but you can see that great new parking lot that's been recently recovered. Yeah, it looks great. And then also it's right next to the West Side Connector Trail that's coming online. And we imagine, again, back when we're back through COVID into a different when we can all be together. But yeah, you can see the West Side Connector Trail. And we can imagine in the future lots of foot traffic. And one of the things we want to do is really lift up West Side entrepreneurs and food growers and processors. Imagine that parking lot full of people, being able to sell things to folks walking along that West Side Connector Trail. So thanks for our partnership with the Foodwell Alliance. And we're excited to be bringing that online in the spring. All right, yeah, there we are. Thanks for showing us that live, Benjamin.
All right.
All right, well, I think, for the next part of our broadcast, as we always do, we level set with the devotion. And I'm pleased this morning that a West Side minister, Reverend Wright, who's been a regular attendee of our summits, will be giving our devotion this morning. And he was always there at the gathering spot when we were doing our devotion. And we always ask to kind of draw inspiration from Nehemiah. And from those that aren't familiar, Nehemiah is a story in the Old Testament about the cupbearer to the king, going back to Jerusalem to rebuild it so it would be safe for residents, and how they built community under the leadership of Nehemiah. But before I turned over to Reverend White to give the devotion from his home, going to read a statement that we always do to kind of level set the devotion. It's become our tradition to begin our meetings with a positive, inspirational message from a member of our community, recognizing that many in our community are driven by their spiritual faith to participate in the Westside revitalization effort. The time at the beginning of our meetings is an opportunity to share various inspirational reflections. While the speakers may articulate their personal faith, it's meant to be inclusive, inspiring, and meaningful, with the story of Nehemiah as our guide. And so the full bio of Reverend Wright is in our bulletin, so you can please check that out. And now I'm going to turn it over to Reverend Wright, who will lead us through about a 10-minute devotion. So thank you, Reverend, for joining us this morning. And now I'm going to turn it to you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody's had their coffee and juice and water and everything is copacetic. This morning, I want to call your prayerful attention to the book of Nehemiah, the 5th chapter, 14th through 19th verse. For the sake of brevity, I want to highlight 2 verses in particular. The 17th verse, which says, "Furthermore, 150 Jews and officials ate at my table, as well as those who came to us from the surrounding nations." And the 19th verse says, "Remember me with favor, my God, for all I have done for these thy people." I want to invite you to look through the eyes of this subject. A seat at the table. A seat at the table. Let us pray. Almighty and gracious God, I ask that you remove me from me so that the people will only see thee. I ask that the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart will be acceptable in thy sight. I pray that the seeds planted will produce much fruit and reach fertile ground. We will give you the glory and I will give you the praise. In Jesus' name, amen. A seat at the table. The recent presidential election clearly shows that we are a divided nation, and it looks like it's us versus them. This is very clear, and this us versus them mentality is revealed in the polarizing rhetoric of the political situation. And not only that, but during the summer, the protest demonstrations showed that there was a lot of us versus them. And even now, after the election, there's still protests showing us versus them. And I would suggest that there needs to be an example of inclusion where it's not us versus them, but it becomes we. And the book of Nehemiah and this particular passage can give us some highlight into how to come to an inclusion where everyone has a seat at the table. I would suggest that Nehemiah's style of governance demonstrates transformative authority. Edward P. Wimberly proposed that transformative authority can be accomplished by joining. This is a process that disarms the defenses and ease the anxiety of others by conveying understanding, acceptance, and respect. You see, Nehemiah joined the community by conveying the acceptance of everyone, by giving them a seat at the table. Moreover, there were at my table 150 of the Jews and rulers, besides those that came unto me from among the heathens that are about us. Nehemiah joined with the community that he was trying to serve. And as he joined with them, he built up a relationship of earned credibility. Credibility is a quality of being believable or worthy of trust. Credibility is walking the walk, being genuine, the real McCoy, having integrity, being the same in the dark as you are in the light. You see, Nehemiah waived all privileges of his office. He was the governor. And as the governor, he was entitled to certain privileges and perks. And the community expected that Nehemiah would be like any other governor. He would use the power of his office to exert more taxes and pressure on them, and they would have to pay for his extravagant style of living. But Nehemiah did the opposite of that. Nehemiah did not accept the perks of his office, and he used his power in a different way. Nehemiah, after discussing the situation with the people, he saw that their poor were oppressed and they were being taxed. Oh, I know we say that poor is with us always, but you see, this idea of the poor and the haves and the have-not is another example of us versus them. But Nehemiah said, well, I'm going to get into my own pocket. I'm going to pay my own way. And I'm going to have people, all the people at my table, and I'm going to pay for it. And the people will not be taxed any further. So Nehemiah was able to join with the people, and he was able to let everyone know that it's not a us versus them, it's a we. He addressed the powerful and the rich and told them that exploiting the people was wrong. And this face-to-face confrontation convinced them that they should do the right thing. According to the governments of Mosaic law, they were not supposed to charge heavy interest. They were not supposed to charge interest at all on the loans that they were giving their fellow brothers and sisters. And then they realized the errors of their way. Instead of them getting richer and their brothers and sisters getting poor, they decided, well, it's going to be in our best interest if the economy is such that everybody has a seat at the table. Everybody has a chance to grow. Everybody has to move up. And while society cannot remedy the plight of the poor or resolve all matters of social injustice, a nation's integrity is judged by how it treats its most vulnerable members. What we find is that in the West Side, there are attempts to remedy this situation. I was talking to John the other day, and he was talking about the housing units and how they were coming online and how people, the rents were according to their wages. For what we see in our community, the wages that they talk about for fair rents does not apply. The average being in Atlanta is $60,000. Well, most residents in our community never even see $60,000. So the attempts by the West Side to level the playing field, realizing that housing insufficiency needs to be addressed so that the people can prosper, is an example of transformative authority. Now, I feel that we have to understand that transformative authority is needed all the way around, not just at Westside Future Fund, but it's to be done in each and every one of us in our lives. We have to look at our brothers and sisters as not a us versus them situation. For you see, when it's put as an us versus them situation, it vilifies the them, and we see ourselves as more superior, when in fact we're not. We're all God's children. I would propose to you that in addition to transformative authority used by Nehemiah and his office, Nehemiah had what I would call uh, exemplary character, and he had credibility because he had moral authority. What we need is more examples of moral authority. You see, he not only talked the talk, but he walked the walk. Nehemiah didn't say one thing and try to do another. He did not say to the rich, you need to stop exploiting the poor, and he exploited the poor. Nehemiah, by his action, uplifted the poor, uplifted the disadvantaged and the disfranchised. He invited the have-nots to tell them their problem, and he listened to their problem. He joined with them, and this joining with them brings about an acceptance. The residents of the West Side, when they feel that they are listened to and that they are accepted, and the haves hear what they have to say, then they will feel that the persons they're dealing with have this moral credibility. And you see, credibility is really important. Credibility is that thing which breeds trust. Now, as we continue on, we realize that Nehemiah realized that there was a higher authority than just himself. He says in verse 19, think upon me, my God, for good, according to all that I have done for this thy people. You see, in the end analysis, it's not how much money we make, but it's how much we've uplifted our fellow human being. It's not the me, it's not just the them, it is the us. You see, we need to understand that as we exhibit transformative authority and moral authority, that we realize that it's God's authority that really ultimately matters. It's what we do for Christ is what gonna matter. As we look at Nehemiah, we see that he didn't go to God and say, beat on his chest, look what I've done, look what I've done. He asked God to look at his efforts to help his fellow human beings in order to bring about inclusion so that everyone will have a seat at the table. The West Side will not function properly if everyone does not have a seat at the table. The other day, I saw some new homes being built off of Donald Hollowell, townhouses, $300,000, $400,000. My brothers and sisters can't really buy those homes, most of them that are there. But I'm glad to see the new facility that's on Boone at Mason Turner and Boone. That facility will house people, and they won't have to pay $300,000 or $400,000, and they will understand that their voice is being heard. Because when we look at housing insufficiency, that's a primary need, just as food insufficiency. Maslow's hierarchy of needs says the first need is food, shelter, and clothing. And when we can't solve all the problems of our residents, but if we can just look at the problems of housing insufficiency and food insufficiency and realize that we're doing it to seek God's approval of our actions, not the approval of men, not the approval of women, but God's approval. So today I'm saying to each and every one of you, let's maintain a seat at the table for everyone in the West Side. Let us pray. Almighty God, I thank you for our time together. And I pray, dear Father, that the beauty of this worship will be well received by this side people. Lord Jesus, we pray that you are shaping our lives more into your image. May we remember what it is like to be lost, so that we're not so outraged all the time when our lost people act lost. And when we talk to those in this world that are so needy, may we view ourselves as a beggar telling another beggar where to find bread, because we too were deserving to having a seat at the table. It is only because of your grace, your mercy, and your love. So may we be the people of grace, the people of truth that speak to a world in need with the love and the compassion and the inclusiveness and the truth of Jesus Christ. Because we know where we came from and we know what you've done for us. May we learn to have faith in the Son of God, who told us that because of your fidelity, there are places at the table reserved for people just like us. Thank you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
All right. Thank you, Reverend Wright. Really appreciate you drawing some powerful lessons out of Nehemiah. And I really appreciate the emphasis that you draw on a we message, and also a message to ensure that everyone on the West Side has a seat at the table. No matter their station, reminding us that as children of God, we all should have a seat at the table. And so thank you for bringing that message to us this morning. And maybe as part of, our conversation later via where everyone has a kind of a virtual seat at the table this morning, we'd love to hear more ideas about how we can do a better job of that on behalf of the Westside Future Fund to ensure everyone has a seat at the table, and we're creating, more of a we and not kind of an us and them. So thank you very much again for bringing us the devotion this morning. And now, as part of our program, if we were back at the gathering spot, this would be the part where we would ask everyone to go around and self-introduce so we can all continue to get to know each other and build fellowship. And so what I'd like to do right now, just to kind of get warmed up, is I want everyone, if you're on Zoom or some folks are on the Facebook or YouTube feed, to get ready to type in your name. But given we're coming into the holiday season, we'd love for you to type in your name and then your favorite holiday food. So right now, I'd love for everyone just to type in your name. And then also, if you would also type in your favorite holiday food, maybe we get some ideas from each other. But go ahead and please just type in your name and your holiday food. We're just kind of getting warmed up here. So everyone can kind of just type in their name and holiday food. Hopefully see some stuff coming up. All right.
Dressing.
Yeah, I see dressing. Who
Yes.
doesn't love cookies?
And
And cake. All right, I see, turkey. All right, awesome. Yeah, Charmin, thank you. Cheesecake. Super. All right, Cindy Simpson, pecan pie. I'm with you there. I love pecan pie.
And John, on Facebook, Valerie Williams says the dressing.
All right, and the dressing. So I'm kind of moving. All right, all types of dessert. Yeah, I would agree with that too. All right, y'all, fantastic for kind of, and grandma's red velvet cake. Yes. and fruitcake from Conyers Monastery. I've never had that before. I have to try that. And
On-
fried turkey. Who doesn't like everything fried?
And on Facebook, Gloria Dorsey says sweet potato pie. Howard Lee says dressing. Cassandra Kirk says in all seasons, pecan pie.
Well, I would agree. And with that, well, we're also going to do, again, kind of get y'all ready to get engaged here in a moment. We're going to do 3 rounds of questions. We're going to ask you to kind of score, from a scale of 1 to 10. And so, the first question is, kind of 1 to 10, when you decorate your Christmas tree. So 10 if it's, before Thanksgiving, or, a 1 if it's right before Christmas Eve. So kind of just give us a sense of when you like to go decorate your Christmas tree. Kind of 1 to, if it's really close to Christmas Eve, make it a 1. If you're already kind of got it up, make it a 10 or something close to that. So see what people's scores are. Yeah, got lots of folks got it before Thanksgiving. If I were doing right now, it would be a 1. I'd be Christmas Eve. All right, everyone, seen everyone's answers? All right, Sherry, a 10. All right, Jaron, yeah, I see that, a 1. All right. Our next question is cranberry sauce. Yeah, controversial topic. So 1 if it's no thank you on cranberry sauce. A 10 if it's like, yay, I love cranberry sauce. So kind of, 1 no to cranberry sauce. 10, like I would probably be kind of a 1 myself.
And Christina went off the scale in the negative form. She said -2. I think that means that she's giving it to 2 other people.
Right, so negative. Really, give it back. Not only not going to eat it, but going to give it back to somebody else.
On Facebook, Derek Jordan said 10, Cassandra Kirk 8, Gloria 7, Bob 9. So Facebook is all loving cranberry sauce.
Right. Now we know. Now we can know what gifts to give to people. And our last question, just to again get everyone kind of engaged, is lights on your house. So 1 if it's, put a 1 in if you have no lights on your house. A 10 if you put lights on your house. Oh, Jared's got. All right, Jaron's got. All right, a 10 if you have lights, lots of lights. A 1 no lights. I have to say right now I'm a 1 myself, but I want to get closer to a 10. Gonna work on that. I'd like to be a 10. I like the lights.
And Lee, I like Lee's answer. Lee said tastefully done 8.
All right, tasteful 8. Yes.
Patricia 1 on YouTube. We got Brendan Gordy with a 5 on YouTube.
All right, y'all. Thank you.
Dan Cathy with an 8 on YouTube.
All right, Dan Cathy's lots of lights. Thank you, Dan. All right, now we're going to shift, and this is where I'm really excited to get some interaction via Zoom, because one of the things we've been doing the virtual broadcast, I felt like there's been a lot of talking to people and not hearing from people, and especially as we think about going into next year. We know we'll be virtual for some part of next year, and hopefully that won't be by spring or summer we're back all meeting together. But we really would like to hear from folks, and we're first going to kind of hear from community members and residents, and then in a few minutes later hear from kind of stakeholders and other partners. But really, kind of what topics should we think about covering? Maybe where should we broadcast from? But really, what themes should we lift up? And so I thought I would start. She kind of opened our broadcast for us, been doing a great job for us. But maybe I'd first start with Ebony for kind of your thoughts about, what things have you liked that we do? What things do you think we should be talking about going into next year? But I'd love to kind of hear your perspective.
Absolutely. I was thinking about this because I live really close to one of the entrances to the West Side path. And it's just so interesting to see that. I mean, not just the path itself obviously is very interesting to see it. But when you see like the entrances and the main points, like where it's going to spill into the parks, and where it kind of goes, sometimes it goes over certain streets and it has these views that are just amazing. I really think that should be shown because the East Side Trail just gets a lot of advertisement at this point. It's just a really big deal. But truth be told, I think the West Side Trail is going to be even better. I mean, it has we have the best views on the West Side for sure. And I think it would be really awesome to kind of showcase that because I don't think people are aware of how awesome the West Side Trail is going to be and how much potential that it has. I would love to see that next year.
All right, great. So what I heard Ebony saying is the West Side Connector Trail, which actually starts right in Vine City and now has the bridge across Boone and then goes to Bush Avenue. It tunnels under Donnelly Howell. And we saw earlier in our broadcast, Benjamin Early was in front of the West Side Connector Trail. But so what I heard you say is we really need to feature that, get people educated about it because it's a really great asset coming into the West Side.
It is a great asset. It's a great asset. I know it goes over Boone, which is going to be an awesome view. It goes over Jones Avenue, which is going to be an awesome view. And I think it dips down, but it goes back over maybe not Travis, but it's a street that's a little bit further up north side. And again, awesome views, and it should be showcased.
Well, thanks our colleagues at PATH for raising the funds to build out that trail, the West Side Connector Trail. So that's a great suggestion. Thank you, Ebony. I know some of our other real loyal, consistent viewers and have been our parent Avengers. And so, Sherry would love to hear your ideas about what we should be thinking about for next year and what kind of topics we should cover. So I think
topics for the summit. I think we should archive more the historical areas in this community, more starting from Booker T. Washington, showcase some of the AUC Center and some of the historic, friendship have been built up and transformed. We could look at showing more friendship, more on Vine City. In Vine City, those are good areas to feature. That'll be good. More historical stuff, showing the history and culture of the West Side.
One thing we could do with our live broadcast is do more live broadcasts, maybe from some of the historical assets.
Yes.
As part of that, really talk about the history. Like I know it was one of my most inspirational broadcasts when we broadcast from Booker T. Washington High School. I mean, it was amazing. To your point, we had a short video from the archivist talking about all the incredible leaders that had come out of Booker T. Washington High School. But we could
also parent and children stories.
Yeah.
If you could archive unique parent and children stories.
Okay.
Because that's the next generation of Vine City, the community.
So hear more of the stories from parents and their children.
And children, archive children. The faces of Vine City is diverse. We have a big Latino population that nobody looks at. I would love to feature them.
Okay, well, those are great suggestions. Mm-hmm. And in just a moment, I'm going to call on your colleague, Waukesha. But if you're a resident or someone in the community and you want to make a comment now, what you can do is raise your hand in the Zoom and we can call on you and unmute you. And we would love to hear from you. So if you're kind of a resident or community member and you'd love to, kind of add to the conversation. But Waukesha, would kind of love to hear your thoughts and ideas about what stuff we could cover next year, things we could really lift up.
I think that it would be nice to see stories of families who have successfully made transition from rental to home ownership, family whose students successfully graduate, and families who have moved up, and residents that lived and been over there to see them reap the benefit of what's going on there. I would love to see that lifted up.
All right. Yeah, we heard your voice, Waukesha. So thank you. So what I heard you say is, stories of kind of success of folks who successfully were renting and then became a homeowner, and success, and other folks who have successfully graduated, gone on to careers, but stories of folks on the West Side, they're stories of success. Is that a good way to recap it that you shared your suggestion? All right. Well, do we have other anyone else from the community or residents that want to kind of chime in now? I got colleagues here helping me. If you want to, do we have some? Okay, go ahead. Yes, sir. Ethan, you need to unmute.
Yes, yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I just wanted I just wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Ethan Martin, and this is my first summit. Actually, I had the privilege back in March of actually volunteering at the Food Alliance Center, and was just blown away by the support and efforts of everybody. And as I started learning more and more about what the Westside Future Fund has accomplished, just really was blown away by everything. And happy to be here, and happy to support the wonderful efforts.
All right. Well, thanks for your positive comments there. Appreciate it. So to other folks from the community or community residents, have some suggestions or thoughts for us, because we'd love to hear. I'd love to hear from you right now. Do we have a hand going up? All right. I think we're ready.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Snati St. Cyr. I'm an Ashview Heights resident, going to Georgia State University. I used to live in the Vine City community not too long ago, and that's when I heard of the Westside Future Fund. Going not into next year, but even as I speak, I want to play my part in ending homelessness throughout the west side of Atlanta for good. I'm an advocate for unhoused or displaced college students and Black men in general for Georgia State University, and I would like to collaborate with the Westside Future Fund in speaking presentations just like you're doing, as well as community efforts, so that we can finally address the issue of displacement, you know, colloquially known as homelessness, and end it, as well as occupy any of these dilapidated or abandoned houses throughout the West Side. So that's what I'm looking forward to, not just in 2021, but right now.
All right. Well, thank you. And so we can follow you up with after the broadcast. I hear you saying you'd like to help us get engaged and how to really lean into ending homelessness and displacement. And we can follow up about how to connect in with you. Appreciate your heart for that. All right, Ronald Ramsey. I think we're ready to go. Yes, sir.
Hi, Junior. Ronald Ramsey Jr. here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hi. I'm a Grove Park resident, so I'm not sure if.
Yeah, all good, man. Please. Your feed's a little delayed coming in. Yeah, I think we lost you there.
We're doing all these historic neighborhoods on the west side. I was just wondering if there was a way for Grove Park to be involved as well in the West Side Future Fund, with all the activity and displacement that can happen with all the gentrification and changes coming in with the new park.
All right. So I think what I heard you're a resident of Grove Park, and I think the question was, can some of the activities of the West Side Future Fund that we're doing, could we bring in the Grove Park neighborhood, into those efforts, right? Is that, I think I heard your question, right? So yeah, I appreciate the points you raised. So we can definitely have some more conversations about that. So thank you for coming in with that comment. Do we have other residents or community members that we haven't had a chance at? Mr. Coleman, I see a hand going up.
Yeah. Good morning. How are you?
Morning.
You made a comment, and this is my first summit. I live in Asheville Heights neighborhood. What I wanted to ask about with markers for some of the houses. I live in the same neighborhood I grew up in. I went to Magnus Jones, Washington High, former principal of Washington High School, retired. But the houses that were built in the neighborhood by Tiger Flower, one I live in, some of the houses were built in 1932. They're being renovated. And I was wondering about markers as making, statements in the neighborhood about the homes that were originally built in this area. There's another one on Laurie that was also built by Tiger Flower, the former box. So I was just wondering, you got Harris Memorial Hospital, you got McClendon, and these were the first two Black hospitals in Atlanta. So I was just wondering, is there anything that can be done in reference to bringing recognition to those situations?
So make sure I heard your question right. So what you're saying is some of the historical houses and the hospitals you mentioned, making sure those assets are protected and renovated and lifted up. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, that, and putting markers, letting people know that these are the original houses.
Okay, yeah, putting some marks on it. Yeah, would love to follow up. I know one of the things we did as part of the Westside Land Use Framework Plan was identify a whole lot of the historical structures on the West Side. And as part of the plan that's hopefully about to pass through City Council, ensuring that design standards and the looks of the neighborhood are protected.
Right.
We can definitely look, follow up on that suggestion around how we can do more. We heard an earlier comment too about how we can do more to lift up and tell the history of the West Side as well as protect those assets. So we could definitely look more into that and love to, as a former principal of Booker T. Washington living in Asheville Heights, love to follow up with you to get connected with you and follow up on those ideas. All right. Thank you. Do we have other questions or suggestions from somebody or any kind of more on Zoom? Love to hear from. All right, we thought we would go to another poll question then. And so you can answer this question, but reflecting on 2020, which do you anticipate being the most difficult undertaking in 2021? So multiple choice: catching kids up in school, launching sustaining West Side businesses, residents being able to make mortgage or rent payments, and residents being able to pay their medical bills and others. So asking you to kind of vote on what you think would be the most difficult undertaking amongst those choices. So we'd love for everyone to kind of, answer this poll question that's up on Zoom, right, to answer. All right, looks like we got a lot of, as I'm watching the answers come in, it's kind of exciting seeing how it's all coming in. So the leading answer right now is residents being able to make mortgage rent payments is leading. And then close second is catching kids up in school. And then right after that is launching West Side businesses. So two of the three are right around, obviously, the economic fallout of COVID and the consequences for folks. We know that on the West Side, the unemployment is disproportionately high compared to the rest of Fulton County and the rest of the state. So that's a real issue. All right, do we want to share the results now, or how does? All right. So we're going to share the results. Yeah, so everyone can see them. All right, great. All right, thank you. Well, I thought, for the next part, just really hear from some of our partners and community members about the summits, and I thought I would start in terms of, again, thinking about what should we cover next year, different things we could do, different topics to lift up. But I thought I would start with Bill Bowling, who's been coming to our summits, regularly, and I see Bill at his office. And Bill, thanks for coming in. Love to kind of hear your thoughts and suggestions.
Well, thanks, John. I always enjoy being at the summit. I miss being with people. It's nice that we've been going to Benjamin, because he's been spending time over at 970 Jefferson, Joseph Lowry. That's the old food bank property. And as we've talked about before, we actually purchased that last December with the intention to make it a community center, a place where folks on the West Side feel like we have a place to meet. I know I love Sherry's comments about really showing the faces and the stories of the community. John, we've talked about and aspire that 970 can actually have a component of our history in the community. But I think the narrative often is that we're weak and needy. And I think the truth is we're resilient, that we have sustained and are now growing back the community. So I think we really need to tell that story. I think the other thing we aspire to do at 970 is really make it an urban ag community center. So we're going to have places for kids to learn about gardening. We hope to make it, Ebony, to your point about things look so good on the east side, I think West Side's just going to knock them out. And one of those places is at 970. So we aspire to really make that beautiful when you're coming up path. And then finally, I think there's so many stories of neighbors helping neighbors that we don't really capture. So that's part of what I hope we can do going forward. And I trust that a vaccine will come and, certainly by spring or summer that we can be together again. And I want to invite everybody over to the 970 facility. We're gonna have a great gathering there when we can get together again.
So thanks, Bill. So one of the suggestions then around how resilient the West Side is to tell some of those resilient stories. That's what I heard you suggest. Another thing, and thanks for the leadership on 970 Jefferson Street, but that where Benjamin was coming from this morning, that could be used as an asset to also lift up the history of the West Side and tell the stories of the West Side. Heard you say that as well.
John, what Reverend Wright's talking about, having a place at the table.
Right.
This is a table that belongs to the West Side. So we'll figure out what we're going to put on that table.
Great. And thank you, but I don't know if you want to share with folks some of the, I know the Football Alliance are going to be there, but some of the other not-for-profits that y'all have talked to about being at 970, you want to share?
Yeah, I think we have 5 or 6. Georgia Organics, which has been working for over 20 years with Georgia farmers. And we know the West Side and the Southwest side of town has the most farmers, has the most Black farmers, men and women. So that's a place we're going to celebrate that. So we'll have Georgia Organics, we'll have the farmers market's going to have offices there. Wholesome Wave, which doubles our bucks and gets fresh food to folks. We have Urban Recipe, which is a food co-op, and we hope we can start some co-ops on the West Side where we're all helping each other. So this really will be the synergy of the urban ag community coming together to serve this community.
And I know one of the things that you and I have talked about is, as we bring the building online and kind of and activate it, it's got a lot of space still and learn from the community, other things we could be doing in the future, to support community needs, at 970 Jefferson Street.
It's really up to us.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Bill. And I thought with another great community partner to check with some suggestions and thoughts for next year with the summits would be Mr. Leonard Adams. So I see that this morning, Leonard, would love to hear some of your thoughts and ideas. Appreciate all your participation in our summits.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning, John. Yes, things that we can think about for next year. First, I wanted to say for this year, John, so honored that the Westside Future Fund has a collective impact model that they're working every month or every 2 weeks or daily to make sure that the inclusion, as Reverend Reverend Wright talked about earlier today, inclusion, the we, the us. When I hear that, I just hear collective impact, and I believe that Westside Future Fund has that in their DNA. Some of the things that I would think that we could maybe highlight or dig into next year is something with the HBCUs. Just think that somehow we missed that that whole boat right there. It's just so much going on there that it's almost like they're on an island here on the West Side. And then also the MLK corridor, or the small Black businesses, or just small businesses on these corridors, where one time Mayor Kasim Reed said that he wanted to see MLK as the best MLK in the United States. And you've seen some of the improvements on the streetscapes that's going in by the city. But I do think those small businesses, that's our Edgewood. And I think we could maybe tune into that a little bit more and highlight those individuals that have been resilient and still here during this time.
Great, Leonard. I heard two things. One was how we could do more to lift up and engage with the AUC schools. So maybe, given we're doing live broadcasts, we did one live broadcast from the Morehouse King Chapel. but maybe what suggesting kind of that is we could think about doing more broadcasts right from, the AUC schools with the presidents and others there to, really get them more engaged, with the Transform Westside Summits. And the other thing I heard, and we have talked about this, one summit we talked about a little bit, but what you're suggesting we do a lot more to kind of really talk about the MLK corridor, lift up the small business in the MLK corridor, talk about where that might be going. Is that what you're, another suggestion?
Okay. Yes, definitely. That's what I'm suggesting. Not to be selfish, but small Black businesses. Right. I know sometimes we'll just say small businesses, small Black business. And I like HBCUs. I understand we talk about the AUC, but just the historical and the importance of what these schools have done for the West Side. Without them, I don't think we would have a West Side. So I don't know how we do it, but we got to get those young people out here and involved, because they're the future.
All right, great. So not long with, the HBCUs really getting their students more engaged in what we're doing. Okay, good. And I've, thank you, Lennon. I know, I think we got Cindy Simpson on. I wanted to, has participated in our broadcast, the CEO of Chris 180, and love to hear some thoughts and ideas.
Yeah. So one thing I'd like to add to the what Bill you were talking about, I think it would be great to have. There's a lot of young artists on the West Side, and we don't really promote them as much as we could. So it'd be great to have a young artist art show over in your new location.
Yeah, and I know it's for one in particular, right? Xavier has been as an example of a young artist.
Yeah, Xavier and Nigel, both of them are very, very good. But I think there's a lot of others too that would be a great opportunity for them. The other thing I'd like to see the summit look at, John, is, and I know we've started some of this work, but to really get to have an event where residents, young adults, and the Atlanta Police Department meet and work together to really look at what are the solutions for the West Side. Because as we know, there's been some violent activities that have gone on, and it's on the increase. So how do we together, working with the police, together work on the violence that's going on? So, and really kind of talk about what we would like to see for what does community policing and community engagement mean? And I think we have to work together to do that. So a summit would be great to do that in.
So I heard two things. One is doing more to connect and lift up the talented young artists on the West Side. And then the other would be maybe a summit. I think I heard you say a summit around, how to build relation between the police and community members with the goal of reducing violence. So would you think that we would have a couple of police officers with a few young people kind of just talking about that? Would that be?
I think we could definitely do that. And that I know the police officers and some of our young adults have already been meeting. Yeah. And there's a big meeting on Saturday or tomorrow. So they're hopefully going to walk away with some more solutions. But I think to do a presentation and get more discussion.
All right, great. Well, that's definitely, a really important topic. So maybe follow up with you on ideas about how we could, do that next year.
Great.
Well, and now, thank you, Bill and Leonard and Cindy. So other folks in the community, if you want to, raise your kind of virtual hand or to say, pick me, but we'd love to hear folks who are watching the broadcast, have thoughts or comments about what we could be covering and what we could be addressing. So you can raise your hand or say, pick me, and we'll call on you now. Do we have all right, Reverend Wright, I think we see, yes, sir.
Talk about the park. I think if you'll continue to give updates on the Cook Park, which is in front of our church. And as far as its completion, I know they were talking about part of it being completed, but I'm particularly interested about the monuments part, where the statues and the C.T. Vivian papers will be, and it's part of our historical heritage. I don't know the update on that, but if you will continue to keep us updated about the progress of Cook Park, that would be helpful.
Great. So we could do an update soon. Then I want to hear you suggesting an update, not just on the Cook Park, but the other aspect led by the National Monuments Foundation to build out the statutes and also house a C.T. Vivian paper. So what I hear you asking is that we bring an update on that soon so folks know where that is.
Yes, thank you.
All right, great. Dupree, I think I'm being coached that you've had your hand up. Dupree Waddy with families first.
Sure.
All right. Yeah, what do you think?
Good morning, family. How's everybody? I do think that we could have some coordinated effort around the distribution of the vaccine and what that means for the West Side. I think that it's not going to be taken for granted that everybody is going to line up to take it. So as much as we can get ahead of that and have a campaign and start connecting folks to resources, that'd be really good information to start putting out there.
Yeah, well, that's great. I had a board meeting earlier this week, Dupree, and I'm lucky to have on our board of directors Dr. Valerie Montgomery Rice, the president of Morehouse Medical College. And one thing she brought up was that very topic you just said. And I think we want to see if we can, have her and some other leading folks early next year to talk about exactly what you just suggested, the vaccine, how it's going to be distributed, and what's going on with it. So great suggestion. Hopefully something we can follow up on early next year. And I know I'm being coached at Karen Rogers with the Police Foundation. I have some, love to hear from you. You have to unmute.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, John. I'm glad to see you this morning. But one of the things that Makeda Johnson and I talked about years ago, and it's going back to some of the comments about uplifting residents, is having maybe a resident or neighbor kind of awards. And I know we're not in the environment to do anything big, but it would be nice at least once a month through the summit. And maybe folks can nominate folks. And so they get spotlighted. So that would be, times two. We will have a lot of people lifted, and it could just be as simple as adding them into the summit and a story behind them. And Cindy's suggestion about doing more, having some more conversations around how do we basically be safe in these neighborhoods. And we would love to be able to participate and help coordinate some of that activity. I know on the 16th, there's going to be something going on at the At Promise Center to support some of the things that Cindy is doing on Saturday to having conversations. But, a lot of times people just don't speak up and speak out. So we have to find public ways for people to voice their opinion and give suggestions as well as public ways. We have a lot of conversations. Privately, people don't want to be recognized as giving information around violence and incidents. So we have to look at other ways to be able to engage all. But highlighting residents, I learned so much. People like Miss Thelma, Miss Linda, so many people in the neighborhood, Miss Makeda. So lifting those people up, spotlighting them once a month, I think that would be really nice.
So maybe, I know you and Cindy, collaborating, working on, maybe we could work all together on some topic around, the public safety with police officers and community.
Sure.
I know it's got to be handled in a real thoughtful way. And then the other thing I hear you suggesting, which would be great, is maybe every summit have some short story of a resident and really just lift them up. Yeah.
Yes.
Great suggestion. So,
and John, there's some people watching with us on Facebook and YouTube, and the very first comment on Facebook and YouTube is a link to this Zoom call. So if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube and you'd like to chat with John on video, you can click on that link and join us on the Zoom call.
All right. And I think that would be up next, Mr. Jeff Cohen. Love to hear from you.
Hi, good morning, John, friends. Jeff with Odyssey. I think it's going to be real important to highlight investment in students' education from pre-K to college seniors, and just making sure they stay engaged with their education.
So highlighting how young people can stay engaged with their education. Is that
Yeah, we know they've lost a lot this year. Some students have not even logged on to school, so we're going to need to help them.
Yeah, great. No, you're right. It's just tragic to think about what's going on right now. So other folks Want to raise your virtual hand or say pick me, would love to hear from you about topics and thoughts for next year. React to what you've heard so far. All that's fair. Do we have any anyone coming up? I'm looking at my virtual team over here to see if there are any virtual hands have gone up. Any?
It looks like Ethan, you want to talk with us again?
Yes, I just have one more thing to say. So you talk about like going forward in 2021. I know that me personally and my network of people, one thing that the pandemic has brought about is I feel like a lot of empathy. It's brought back a lot of empathy because everybody is more attuned to those who were truly affected by this worse than others. And the reason why I'm saying all this is because I think that there is, the people that I talk to, there is this big desire to help out those who are less fortunate and those who may have been affected by the pandemic worse than others. The problem is that a lot of these people don't know where to begin. And so a lot of what I'm doing currently and would like to continue doing and collaborate into the new year is working with younger professionals in the city and really getting that message that Reverend Wright was talking about, that we and that us, and thinking of the West Side as part of Atlanta, the entire city, and how if you have one area that is not doing well as the others, then it affects the overall health and well-being of the city. And so I think a lot of people realize that, and a lot of people want to get involved, but they just don't know where to start, and they don't really know how to go about doing that. So I would say, again, this is something I plan on focusing on, but in the future, the efforts to engage with younger professionals throughout the city and other areas of the city, I think will be key from a mentoring perspective, from a volunteering perspective, and overall fundraising.
Great. So thank you. So what I hear, just kind of repeat what you're saying is that I understand, that a lot of folks want to kind of lean into their empathy, watching all the hardship going through the pandemic, and yourself and other young professionals. Maybe we could lift up more of ways that young professionals that now really want to get engaged, whether it's volunteering or lending talent or treasure. But what I hear you suggesting is we could lift up more ways to get young professionals engaged, and also how they could help. Is that a fair restatement?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and we'd love to stay engaged with you to help us figure that out. So thanks for
that. Absolutely.
Do we have another go?
Yeah, it looks like Sherry actually would like to jump in and join us again.
All right, Sherry.
Oh, I wanted to add more on Booker T. Washington cluster.
Yep.
College students.
Okay.
Who went off in the pandemic and who are still pushing. Some more stories on Booker T. Washington, even alumni.
Okay.
That is close, that is in the area and has ties to the area.
Okay. So more stories on Booker T. Washington students coming out.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sherry. And I know Wendy, I think we wanted to call on you next.
Oh, hey, John. Thank you. And I want to just speak to the health disparities. Luke Lindsay and I, whom you know, we are with the American Red Cross, and we're working with many of the individuals right now. And when we talk about the vaccine, yes, there is a vaccine, but what's happening is we're hearing numbers that 50% of the African-American population will not take the vaccine. So I believe that we've got to focus on education, health education. Right now, with the American Red Cross, blood donations are down. And if we can't get blood to sustain our population, these issues are going to continue. Right now, we're fighting sickle cell anemia. We don't have the blood that we need to sustain their lives. So we're working on an initiative, a program to support sickle cell patients. But I think we need lots of education to make sure our population is prepared, first of all, to take the vaccine. We've got to give blood to help sustain folks that are sick. And we're working on something also with Morehouse School of Medicine. DePriest is on our steering committee. So I just believe that we've got to highlight the importance of this vaccine. And so more to come, But I wanted to put that out there that we are working daily on how to keep our African American population educated on the fact that we need your blood. Our sickle cell patients cannot survive without African Americans donating blood. So please reach out to us and we'll continue to feed you information, John. But we could have that highlighted the importance of this vaccine.
Great. So, highlight the importance of the vaccine, how we combat the concern in the African American community not to take the vaccine, and also remind people to give blood. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think, do we have another? All right. Christina Britt, good morning.
Good morning. Happy Friday, everyone. Kind of bouncing off of what Ethan said, I think it would absolutely be powerful to get younger professionals involved in the Westside Future Fund in general. Something that popped into my mind, a great place to start would actually be a community day of service. And I don't know if this has been discussed before, but just an opportunity, whether it's planting trees at 970 or putting together food bags, just, once we can, once COVID clears up, just opening the door for people to be involved in the West Side and to serve together. I think from that also opens the door for opportunity to get to know one another in a service environment, which would be very powerful.
Great. No, thanks for that suggestion to do a community day of service once we can safely gather together. And I know you've thinking a lot about how to get more people like yourself engaged. So thank you for joining us this morning. Do we have another? All right. We're going to actually shift. We've got another poll question we want to try. So we're going to go to another question. And the next question for those that are watching is the question is around, in which area would you like to see the most improvement on the West Side in 2021? Which area? Education, income inequality, affordable housing, affordable health care, or other. So in which area would you like to see the most improvement on the West Side in 2021? So I'd love for you to pick one of those and we can see what folks think we ought to. And while you're answering, I think Rob wanted to hear from you with Atlanta Beltline Partnership. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, John, and thank you for everything that you are doing. Certainly encouraged to hear the comments about the Westside Beltline connector. I think it's really important as the Beltline, that connector connects to the full Beltline. One of the things people don't realize is how many jobs are created by the Beltline when it gets built and all those companies that come in. And I think we share many partners, John, right? And if we can work intentionally to make sure that we have the right training providers to connect those Beltline residents to all the jobs that are being created along the Beltline, so they have a really easy way to get to those jobs along the Beltline. And then as your residents mentioned, people are concerned about mortgages, concerned about financial health. Getting income is going to really be a key. And so as we continue to build out the Beltline, definitely want to work with you and residents on the West Side to help connect folks to those jobs that are created.
And you're speaking, just to make sure I'm clear, Rob, not the jobs of actually building a Beltline, but when the companies show up along the Beltline, the jobs that they're going to be hiring for. That's what you're
exactly. It's actually both, but they're certainly the jobs in building the Beltline, and great partners like Cefica can help on that front. But then more than that are the jobs that the new businesses that locate along the Beltline.
Yeah, well, I'd love to follow up. And I know one of the folks that's in the northwest quadrant of English Avenue is Lincoln Properties, which bought out about 16 acres, and they're deliberately building out office space along the West Side Connector Trail, I think, as an example. And they want to be real intentional about how to hire members from the community. But yeah, Rob, you're right, because I know that there's a lot of concern that the Beltline can inadvertently lead to displacement and loss of opportunities, opposed to winning on economic opportunities. So thank you for that suggestion. We'll follow up with you. Good to see you.
That's good. Good seeing you too. Thanks.
All right, y'all. The poll questions, we're about ready to share it, right? All right. Well, the leading answer was affordable housing, 55%, followed by income inequality, education. So a clear majority for affordable housing. All right, and then I think what we want to do to take a little bit of a break and come back to live broadcast, but really appreciating how challenging everything is and some of the folks have talked about the Booker T. Washington cluster. But the Booker T. Washington cluster is led by a great group of principals. The Westside Future Fund now has a partnership with the Booker T. Washington cluster supporting. And thanks to especially to Sylvia Russell and Beverly Tatum, who've done a lot to build out that partnership. But we had a recent event where we were building, trying to build awareness about the Booker T. Washington cluster. And we have a great video on the Booker T. Washington principals and really appreciating how hard they're working. It's about a 5-minute video. I thought we'd share this video because it's a terrific video and kind of a reminder of their great leadership. And then we'll come back for some more comments.
I miss you guys and can't wait to see you soon. But I've heard so many great things about you all. Keep up the good work. You were born for greatness and you are second to none, okay? All right, you all have a great day.
Hi, my name is Dr. Margot Aretha Woolfolk. I'm the principal of M. Agnes Jones Elementary.
Dr. Diamond M. Ford. I'm the principal of Michael R. Hollis Innovation Academy.
Tiana Cromes, principal of V. Brown Middle School.
Angela Coxum Young, the proud principal of Booker Telfair Washington High School.
We are 5 dynamic women, and we're able to think about our schools, but also think about the other schools in this community in terms of the feeder pattern.
And so with that being said, a great thing about how we collaborate with each other is that we try to create a roadmap for success from pre-K all the way through 12th grade.
You really have to lean on each other. This is tough work, but I think what we do together is try and be creative, think, share ideas.
They have challenges, as you can see in the community. A lot of times they're coming from high poverty areas, but you cannot tell when they walk through these doors.
The conversations that we create about planning what's right for our kids, what can we do, and knowing the community, it makes a difference. And we bounce ideas off of each other.
So we have to have that communication. And we know that if we demonstrate that, the kids and our families will do the same thing.
Because it's important, this work is important. Our population isn't the easiest right now because we have students with so many needs. So the fact that we get to kind of line up some of our resources and just work together so that the entire family is supported as opposed to one child, I think that that is one of the strengths of the Washington cluster. And when we think about the beloved community of Martin Luther King, even though much of our history is built on the impact or success that the forefathers, the founders, hoped they would make in the African-American community, it's extended so much beyond that. And I get the privilege of being able to sow the seeds of love, to connect in a way in the community that shows people that we are a very inclusive school. We definitely consider all cultures. We welcome all cultures because that is a huge part of who we were. And if you think about Booker T. Washington himself, he really did rally behind the idea of working together to build and uplift however we saw fit. So I just love that we stand at the helm and at the feet of some greats.
Now, this generation of kids understand the beloved community.
Westside Future Funds has been very intentional and specific in terms of how they support the community and then what their rationale and reason for it is. It is to create a beloved community where Dr. King would be proud of how the neighbors, of how the communities interact, the community interacts, how neighbor and neighbor are working together to find solutions.
Because of Westside Future Fund ensuring that that's going to stay in the forefront of everything that they're doing, that it's all about, you know, what Dr. King's mission was and bringing it alive and not letting it die. It's been great because it's keeping me, you know, making sure that I'm on that same mission as well.
Think about the work that they're doing, that we're doing, Westside Future's doing. When you speak of grassroots, this is grassroots. The wraparound services that we provided from communities and schools, from Chris 180, from the At Promise Center, when kids may get in a little trouble and they can go to the At Promise Center to better support them and they have in-house therapists. Where do you go for that? What do you do and how do you better support the students? If they're not right at home, it's impossible for us to teach them at the school. And so by having the partnerships that we do have with Westside Future Funds and community partners that we do have, it definitely creates a better performing student. So when you talk about school and being traditional, traditional is not a part of our vocabulary in the Washington cluster.
All right, great video. Traditional is not part of our vocabulary in the Booker T. Washington cluster. Great quote. And again, the principals are so inspirational to meet them and see how hard they work, especially right now. So coming out of that video, we thought, and it was talked a little bit about during our audience participation, but I would love to hear from people who are still with us. You can raise your hand, but we'd love to hear from you about ways we can help the Booker T. Washington cluster, whether it's helping the students, helping the families in the cluster, helping the teachers. But do folks, have thoughts about that? And we'd love for you to kind of raise your virtual hand if you have some thoughts about how we support the Booker T. Washington cluster. What could we do at the summits? Other thoughts and ideas, especially appreciating, where the kids are right now. But folks have any thoughts or suggestions? Do you have any hands up? So we have Keisha Howe.
It's Waukesha John. I wanted to say this because it's time for virtual learning, and I'm gonna have to jump off. I always talk about stability, and I want to be on record for saying this publicly. If you truly want to help the students in the Booker T. Washington cluster and all over Georgia, Atlanta, this country, you must stabilize the family. The family have to have stable housing. They have to have a stable income. That is a must. And lastly, before I go, John, I would like to see more stability in those students. Our population has been moving around a lot in the Washington cluster, but we have been very resilient and we have been moving the ball in the cluster. But I want to see stability. I want to see Westside Future Fund go back and look at these students and these families and see, hey, are you interested in coming back to the West Side? Because so many families and students has been lost. And I just wish to see them also reap the benefit of what the West Side have always had to offer. You all have a great day.
Yeah, thank you, Keisha. And I know if you're at our summits, you always introduce yourself as our future mayor. So thank you for your passion around the families and the Booker T. Washington cluster. Other thoughts about the cluster and how we can help support the students, the teachers, the families, any of the above? Do you have any virtual hands? Not yet. All right. Yeah, we want to hear from you. Say it at the summit. Say it now. And I think, I thought we might go to also, because he's been out there so much. I think we check in with our West Side correspondent. And so Benjamin, I hope you're still out there near 970 and kind of give us some thoughts. We've been out covering a lot of stories, listening to the broadcast, what your perspective is and what we should be covering next year and talking about.
Yeah, John, I heard a lot of great ideas. I personally love the ideas about, putting historical markers on historical spots over here on the West Side. I think that's a wonderful idea. I also love the idea of highlighting the HBCUs. For all of the historical context that wraps around the HBCUs, every influential person that's come out of an HBCU, the way that HBCUs are leading in so many fields around, economics to healthcare. You got Morehouse School of Medicine right there. That's right in the epicenter of developing a vaccine and, contributing to building up the overall healthcare of not just Atlanta, but the country overall. I think it's well worth investing in more stories coming out of the HBCUs and seeing so many of the leaders that are coming out of the HBCUs that'll be taking positions of power throughout the country going forward. So that's a great idea. I also like the idea of, creating a community resident award. I think that's a way of incentivizing, people to come together, have a greater sense of camaraderie within the community. And also just a way to just have fun and celebrate one another. I think, everybody that's from the West Side knows that it's like family being over here. And if you've been familiar or have gotten to know Westside Future Fund as an organization, you understand that we operate as a family. So I think, an award to celebrate that would be something that's right on par. So those are a few thoughts. But I'm looking forward to speaking to a lot of you folks personally who offered these ideas. I'm looking forward to actually helping to facilitate uplifting those stories moving forward.
Yeah, what do you think? Because I know with some of your, as our Westside correspondent, you go to different assets and lift them up, but we could do more. I think I heard the suggestion around some of the historical homes and other places that we could do more storytelling, right from those places.
Absolutely. And not just from those places, but with the people who live there, with the people who have called those places home or have some sort of connection to it. Again, this is all about uplifting the residents. The West Side is everything, all of the potential that people see on the West Side right now, it would not exist without the people that live here and without the people who have been living here. And so, to an earlier point of all of the opportunity that's now coming to this side of town, it's only right that the people that have been here who have made it worth investing in are able to take advantage of that. And so, let's do a good job of uplifting these people's stories so that we can not just, further make the case that that's just the right thing to do, but show people that they're valued, show people that they matter, and show people that as a community, we care about one another. So that's a good, a great way to do that.
Yeah, and thank you for helping us do it. And another kind of correspondent has been helping us, especially as we kind of gain our footing with live broadcasting, is Craig Lucy. Used to be with WSB and did a lot of work covering the West Side. And Craig, you've been watching the West Side a lot of years with a couple of different lenses, but thanks for your help helping us think through these live broadcasts. But what do you think we should be lifting up next year in some of the stories based on some of your learnings and experience?
Yeah, good morning to everybody. This is a wonderful show here on Zoom, and I'm sorry if you see a little munchkin running behind me. Mama's out of town. I came to Atlanta in 2011, and I was a reporter anchor over at WSB. And driving over on the West Side, you see boarded up homes, and I just couldn't believe that people were living like that. And so I always wanted to go over there on the West Side and tell the stories and spotlight some of the issues going on over there so that our local leaders and business owners and just the community in general could lift it up. And so over the years, just seeing the work that the Westside Future Fund has been doing and all of the silent heroes over on the West Side, it's been incredible to see the growth and to see all of the business owners over there being lifted up. And I love hearing all of these incredible ideas. I love Cindy Simpson's idea about having an art show and telling the stories of the local artists. With this COVID pandemic, I would love to try to lift up these restaurant owners. I talked to Big Zach over at Local Green, for one of our summits, right at the beginning when the pandemic hit, and, they're really struggling. So, our job is to spotlight these issues, bring attention to it so that we can make a big difference. For me, having covered news so long, we as you know, you turn on the news, it's a lot of negativity. So I want to cover the positive stories. And, that's what we're working on. That's what this summit's all about, is telling those stories of hope and lifting everybody up. So I love telling the stories about the entrepreneurs. I love telling the stories what we did over at Westside Empowerment Center, how a caseworker had helped someone who literally was in the darkest moment of her life, and they turned her life around. And those are the stories that we need to be sharing. Those are the stories that the media really is not going to cover. So it's our job, all of us together on this Zoom call. We have smartphones that shoot in HD. So when you see incredible things happening over on the West Side, what I want all of us to do is document it and tell the stories so that when we're here on the summit, we can broadcast those stories and people can see what's going on in our community. We have the highest homicide rate in 30 plus years. This should not be happening in Atlanta. We are the city that's too busy to hate. We are the city that people look up to. And so I think that all of us, we can't just depend on police. I think that all of us need to, chip in and help troubled youth And, you know, Xavier, John, is such a wonderful example of someone who was in a dark spot and at Promise turned his life around. So we need to tell more of those stories, and we need to give people, like we've been giving Xavier, a voice, because he speaks their language to folks who are in that dark spot. Say, hey, look, you don't have to go down this route. I was there. I can show you the way. So those are the stories I think we all need to focus on telling. And I absolutely love to say it at the summit theme this morning.
And thanks for all that. And I think one of the things I heard you saying, we've talked about this with Benjamin too and others, is that folks with their smartphones and the quality now that's what the smartphones do on the video quality, that one thing we could be thinking about doing, if people have stories they'd love to do, let us know, but then they could go out and do their own stories via their smartphone, and they can get them to us, and then we could be featuring more stories from more people who, you know, who are out there, you know, lifting up things that need to be told. So thanks for that suggestion. And thanks for coming in with your little munchkin running around. And we've got a couple other hands went up. So we're going to go next to, all right. Yes, sir. Want to hear from you again. Thank you. I think you got your hand, you're muted.
Ah, okay, there it is.
All right. Yes.
Hey, so I wanted to come up with a few other ideas that I think we should perhaps at least start brainstorming or thinking about as soon as possible. I believe an individual named Carl in the chat said something about a community-owned Wi-Fi. I want to expound on that. I think we need to go further. We need just a straight up community or West Side owned smart grid and high speed Wi-Fi for the whole West Side of Atlanta. So like all West Side neighborhoods should have 5G or just high speed Wi-Fi that is secure. Perhaps it can be combined with a VPN for those not familiar, a virtual private network. And we just need massive connectivity in order to at least nullify the digital divide, which we know affects Black people, and in particular Black men, disproportionately to the rest of the American population. The second idea that I just thought about is throughout the entire west side of the city, how many health facilities, and particular mental health facilities, do we really have out here? The ones that I know of that are big is the Grady Behavioral Health Center by the DFAC's office in Bankhead, the Piedmont Hospital over right off of Howell Mill Road. And then we also, I believe, have one other center that I know of. And I feel like the closure of all the different hospitals as well as mental health facilities basically throughout my childhood have exacerbated some of the problems we already have. And so I want to discuss the opening of even more, health clinics, and also the Adamsville Regional Health Clinic off of Martin Luther King by Fulton Industrial. That's the only other place that I know of. So I would like to see many more health clinics, if not full-blown hospitals, on the west side of the city in the near future. And to reiterate, I want to see high-speed, connected, community-owned Wi-Fi.
Great. Well, thanks for those suggestions. I think, Sherry, did you have a hand up?
Yes. How do we help Booker T. Washington? We bring back more counselors to the school. Counselors is key to the school, and counselors could partner with the children to assess to see where they're lacking as far as when you're going off to college. Counselors are crucial Social workers are also crucial. So we need as many social workers and counselors at Washington in order to have a successful student. Students need access to counselors and social workers, and mentorship is good. If the child is into it, going off to college, just a support person. And for families, just somebody to actually triage your family, check in with the family, make sure the family's okay.
Great. So what I hear you saying is, especially right now, that more counselors to support students, and then kind of kind of a close parallel, I guess, would be hooking those students up with good mentors as well.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Do we have other? All right, you're on. Good morning. You have to unmute your.
Good morning, family. My name is Antoinette, and so I wanted to add what Sherry said. I think a lot of parent liaisons will also benefit all of the schools, so that way the parents can be the bridge between the school as well as the families, because it'll be easier to connect with someone who can relate to where you are and where you're going, and that way the counselors won't have such a high caseload. There are two aspects of our communities that have not been brought up throughout this summit, and that are our seniors and our worship centers. And I think that it is imperative. I did read in the summit packet how Invest Atlanta have programs available for those families and homes who need renovations so that they can stay. But I think another aspect that we need to maintain our community as we are growing is family planning, so that those real estate properties are no longer lost like they have been in the past. So it is necessary to make sure those families have an understanding of how to maintain those properties and pass them down. So that'll connect both our senior population as well as our young professionals. So that's two birds with one stone. Also, continue to support the religious facilities in each community. That has always been a vital connection for our families. Not just them helping the community, but growing their congregations so that the communities and those facilities become one. And so everyone is working from a similar platform. So I'm particularly focusing also on our seniors, making sure that there are activities. I'm not sure if Meals on Wheels are still, since COVID has just come through, but just to make sure that our schools, our religious facilities are still connecting with our seniors, to make sure that they have some plans in place to maintain the family properties and to make sure that their spirits and their hearts are still lifted. Thank you.
Right. So thanks. So you're saying, among other things, but really, lifting up our seniors, and another suggestion, making sure that seniors have good kind of legal help for their own estate planning, in terms of not losing control of their home if they want to pass that down to their family. I heard that as an important suggestion. All right, we have other. We got a few more minutes left in our virtual, so I think we have time for another one. Do we have in terms of thinking about next year, topics to cover? Happy to hear from anyone now in our kind of final part of our summit. If folks have thoughts, Kelly, Jordan, you always have been our summits. I see you there. And any thoughts for us going forward for next year?
Thank you, John. Appreciate the shout out. Well, as you know, I serve on the board of Truly Living Well, Center for Urban Agriculture, and we, our executive director, Carol Hunter, we're doing our best to be good supportive members of the community and help people with healthy food and good nutrition in what is still something of a food desert. And we deeply appreciate the support that Westside Future Fund has given to Truly Living Well, and also the Food Well Alliance and Bill Bowling. Y'all been great partners for us, and as you know, we were able, with your help and your support, to purchase the site of Truly Living Well from Atlanta Housing Authority, which is a very meaningful and important moment in the history of Truly Living Well, to actually own the land and know that we'll be there. We signed a 30-year community benefits agreement with the Atlanta Housing Authority that says for the next 30 years, Truly Living Well is going to be there to provide healthy food and education and training and programs for kids. And we couldn't be more excited. Thank you.
Great. For those that don't know, Kelly is on the board of directors of Truly Living Well, a great farm over near M. Agnes Jones and Ashley Heights. What is it, Kelly? About 3.5 acres that y'all.
That's right, John. That's exactly right.
Yeah, and so now that to be a permanent asset on the west side, thanks to Atlanta Housing, basically, I think giving them a free ground lease. And so thanks for all your great work and your leadership with Carol. All right, we have any more as we get to our final time in the broadcast, any more kind of thoughts or suggestions as we go into I see does Charmin Goins have her hand up? Yes, Charmin.
Yes, okay. Hi, John.
Hey.
As I was thinking, one of the things I think was missing, I'm Charmin Goins with YWCA of Greater Atlanta. And one of the things, or actually two things, voting, the importance of voting. And we got everybody out for the national elections, but it's the locals that make the biggest difference. And I think some education about the importance of the local vote. One particular race, the 39th district, in the initial race, there were like 69,000 votes, but in the runoff, there were only 5,000. And the importance of us coming out for those local elections, because it's where the local hits that really matters. And secondly, as a women's organization, I'm always concerned about women and the rights of women and how to help women to earn their own voice to advocate for themselves, not giving voice, but using their own voice to advocate for themselves. So some education around advocacy would be real great to have for next year. Thank you.
And thank you, Charmin. And I think I'd love if you have some thoughts about how we can do that.
Yes.
And partner with the YWCA in order to do that too. And also hear you say, the importance of, reminding people to vote. But I guess as I'm kind of reflecting out loud, maybe one of the things we could start thinking about in the summits is educating more about, who are the different elected leaders. And maybe on occasion invite them to kind of speak, which we don't, whether it's a state house member but because part of probably getting people more to vote would be getting people more educated about the important role they play in their quality of life. Yeah. Well, thank you for those suggestions. So I think we're at about 8:54. So we had another poll question we wanted to do. And one of the things is thinking as we go into, while we're still virtual in our summits, when we were at the gathering spot, we would start at 7:15. We would do a devotion, and then we would take about 20-25 minutes to do self-introductions. And obviously that doesn't take any of that kind of time now, but we've kept the broadcast length the same. And so some folks have commented they thought maybe the broadcast should be longer. Some folks have said leave it the same length. But as we go into, and let's assume we're kind of doing virtual broadcast for at least the first quarter next year. But in terms of, I'd love for people to kind of, do our final poll question here is in terms of the length of the summit broadcast, yay, keep it exactly as it is from 7:15 to 9. A little shorter, maybe 8 to 9, or the same time, a little shorter, 7:15 to 8:15. So, if we went to only an hour, is it better to do 7:15 to 8:15 or 8 to 9? So if you think, while we're virtual, maybe making it an hour, or keep it the same time. So this has been an ongoing conversation with some folks. So hopefully folks are voting. How long we're going to leave the vote open? I want everyone to, I'm up 40 of 65 have voted. I can't see who's voted, but I can see 64% of it like, yay. We want everyone to kind of give us some input here. So to kind of think about a little shorter. So right now it looks like I'm gonna, keep this question up just a few more seconds, so folks can give us some input about the right amount of time to take out of your Friday mornings twice a month. First and third Friday we do the summits. So perfect time, keep it up, or a little shorter. All right, maybe we'll give it about 10 more seconds to vote if you haven't. Big moment on the vote. So, all right, we're about to share the results. So it looks like folks are thinking a little shorter. 8 to 9 was kind of the lead winner there. All right. Well, I appreciate that input. Well, as we wind up our broadcast, one of the things we're ready to announce is the Home Depot winner. So at the beginning of our broadcast, a name has been randomly picked, Gwendolyn Sands. Gwendolyn Sands, you are the winner. Hopefully you're still watching. If not, we'll still get it to you. Are you there? Oh, you're the winner of the Home Depot gift card. Yeah, there's some party music for you.
Woohoo, Gwendolyn! Yeah. Woo-hoo! Let's go.
All right, congratulations. Well, so we on the Zoom right now we have 64 folks. So and a lot of your folks I know and recognize and work with, and some new folks I met today. Thank you. But I just really want to say thank you. One of the things that's really been a challenge is not feeling like we have enough engagement and enough dialogue. And so and I think an important role of the Westside Future Fund and kind of our connecting and convening role is to lift up voices, especially voices that may not always be heard. And also to create a very, for a safe place, for honest, thoughtful, but, hard conversations, because some of these issues we're dealing with are hard issues and people have different perspectives. And so really, appreciate folks engaging with us today. And if you have more thoughts about this, because really the summits for us it's a service, and we want to make sure these are serving the community and in our collective efforts to help build a community Dr. King proud to call home. So thank you for joining us on this Friday morning, and hopefully everyone will stay safe and warm over this holiday weekend, and we'll be coming back on Friday, December 18th, and be announcing soon our program for that summit. But now we're going to wind up, and again, I just want to express my gratitude. Thanks for everyone. Thanks for the folks here at Elevate that helped us put this on together. You can see a lot of goes into doing these virtual when you're using the Zoom out at their studio. So folks, have a great weekend, and I'm going to sign off now. And again, thank you.